Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. We're thrilled to be chatting about marketing in Web3 with some folks from Myosin.xyz today. And I'm Alex, the community manager for CharmVerse. CharmVerse is a Web3 operations platform handling docs, tasks, bounties, and proposals. It is a place for team contributors to coordinate day-to-day work, sign in with crypto wallets, and unlock workspaces with tokens and NFTs. I do encourage our listeners and guests to share the space today, and we will be giving away the secret phrase for a POAP, so make sure you have the mobile app and listen carefully because we will be announcing that later. So today we're speaking with Blake and Simon from Myosin.xyz. They are a marketing DAO, and I'm eager to hear about their journey in Web3. So, Blake, you're here. Simon, I sent you an invite to co-host. Did you receive that? All right. Simon, are you there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Hi, guys. Thanks for taking the time to be here today.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
So let's start by familiarizing our audience with Myosin.xyz and your journey a bit as co-founders. Who wants to kick it off?
How should we do it? Simon, do you want me to go?
Yeah,
or
take it, Blake.
Yeah. All right, so I can get off. Yeah, so my name is Blake, co-founder, head of product community here at Myosin. Myosin, we are a growth marketing down product studio. So the simplest version of it is we are a Web3 agency that is focused on helping red pill the next billion Web3 users. I think the key part of the narrative for us is really understanding that I think everyone here in this room or anyone who's listening would, we all love Web3. We love what it represents. We love the future we're trying to create. The challenge here is only 1% of the world is on it, right? So I think for us, it's all about, coming in as marketers and growth people to kind of provide that other half of product market fit, because there are a lot of people building in the space, but not a lot of marketers. So working with Web3 projects to better understand what it takes to operationalize and scale growth, whether or not it's the community, content, partnerships, paid, and just kind of putting all those pieces together to help those companies grow and start to reach larger and larger audiences. And then vice versa, working with Web2 companies and helping them get smarter and more familiar with what Web3 means and the implications that has for the next 20 or so years, and helping them, figure out their strategy to enter the space and providing the services to actually help them, to actually work and enter the space itself. But I'll stop there. And
Yeah. Did you, Simon? Did you want to add anything else?
No, I think Blake nailed it. The only thing to really add is that from the insights that we draw from our services projects, we are building products to be able to plug the massive gaps in tooling in Web3. So that's something to watch out for with our DAO is we're certainly agency first is kind of perception wise, but we're rapidly iterating towards product studio as well.
Oh, that's great. What was the moment you realized that there was a need for a marketing DAO?
I could take this one. So I was at Consensus Meshes Accelerator Tachyon for 2 cohorts. Realized one, everyone in Web3 is brilliant, but 2, it's unclear exactly what the problems are that these solutions are trying to solve for. AKA, this is a marketer's problem, right? Like, how do you succinctly explain the reason for being for any given product? And when you're in an e-com business, which is where I was at for the greater of 6 years or greater part of a decade, the problem is pretty clear. But when you're in a Web3 world of trying to explain privacy and DIDs and protocols to enable higher yield and NFTs as a form of identity or community, like, it becomes very dizzying to a normie on why I should care. And so, the immediate next thought that I had was, oh, well, an agency or two would probably end up starting or shifting into Web3. And then I realized, wait, this DAO thing actually could work for marketers around the world. The key insight is, there are many people like Blake and I we just happen to be based in New York City and we have the experiences that we do. But if we create a platform for other practitioners to share their knowledge and share playbooks and tactics and networks that we're all connected to, we can get to where we're going. What sounds like 40 times faster because we have 41 members now in our DAO. So that was the key insight, and then obviously using the Web3 tech to enable those rails for our organization.
That's great.
And then for me, I think it really all this came about. How we started Myosin really was Simon he had been pondering this for a while, and then we reconnected. We had previously worked together at a venture studio a couple of years back, and we just we liked each other. We stayed in touch, and then at the beginning of this year, he kind of reached out and said, "Hey Blake, I want to launch this growth marketing DAO. Do you want to come help me build it?" And I think from my own perspective, I'd been playing around with ETH and crypto from like a speculative standpoint since 2017. Wrote it up, wrote it down, kind of put it away for the side. Focus on stocks and other things for a while. But then I think once DeFi summer hit, we saw DeFi happen, we saw NFTs happen, we saw DAOs start to take off. But that was very much a 2021 phenomenon. It felt like when we started entering the mainstream. But I think what Simon and I had both also seen was that DAOs are kind of chaotic. There's not a lot of structure to it yet, and again, the broad generalization, right? But there are very few people had effectively learned or managed to kind of to effectively leverage that DAO model to turn it into a real business, right? And something that can scale. So that's kind of where we saw the opportunity to come in and totally transform the way agencies operate and operate and scale. And we think we can use the DAO model to do that a lot better than the traditional agency model.
Yeah, just want to highlight one key insight that Blake came to me with so early in our journey together, and which is also why I love working with him, in addition to many other reasons. But we are purposefully keeping under the Dunbar's number, which is 150 people. That law basically states that 150 people is the max amount of people that you can consider as part of your community as a human being. And so we're purposely designing this DAO to be under that number so that we create our first cohort of members and really have a tight-knit community in our first year of working together.
And do the regulations change drastically after 150?
I don't think it's so much a regulatory thing. But yeah, for us, really, I think the reason we chose 150, like I said, Dunbar's number is a big part of it, right? I think the challenge that a lot of people have with DAOs is they get so big, right? And it's chaotic and it's really hard to know anyone. So for us, we just saw the opportunity to kind of make it intimate. But on top of that, because we actually operate more as a business, right? And we're using the DAO to enable it as opposed to it being a DAO for the sake of being a DAO. It's really important to us as leaders within the community to make sure that everyone we allow in actually knows what they're talking about, is good at their work and is actually willing to contribute. So that's been a big part of it is, we're really refining and figuring out what are the qualities that we're looking for to continue building the community. What are the skill sets we need to continue stacking up on? It's a 24/7 never ending treadmill that we're running on, but at the same time it's invigorating because we're always bringing on new and exciting folks like Jack and Jared who are both in the room with us. Shout out to these guys.
Nice. Hi Jack. Hi Jared. Can you touch a bit further upon the structure of the DAO and what the day-to-day is like?
Yeah, I can tackle that.
Sure.
So yeah. Unless Simon, do you want to? It's up to you.
No, take it. Go ahead.
So the structure of the DAO. So I think it's pretty straightforward. So for us, number one, the membership itself, it's very much focused on bringing together, like I said, we're already screening people. So the membership itself, originally we were comprised of mostly growth marketers, but I think as we all know in Web3 marketing it's very different. It's a new world. It's a new paradigm. It's a new growth stack. So we've actually been thinking about that a lot. I think the new model that we're starting to kind of coalesce around is this idea of community, content, and partnerships really being this holy trinity for marketing within Web3, and then paid media and paid marketing and growth marketing kind of has that envelope around it to actually enable and amplify existing messaging, right? So it's not like in traditional Web 2 where, you could just launch a Squarespace, put a bunch of Facebook ads against it, and maybe you don't even need a real product. You could just drop ship that stuff, right? Whereas in Web 3, it's not that simple, right? You actually have to start with community, but that's really complicated. Then you have to assemble all these other teams. So for us, sorry, that's a long way of me saying the community itself is comprised of growth marketers, community managers, content writers, biz dev, partnerships folks, designers, strategists, the list goes on. And then what we've done is we've started to scale is break that out into discrete guilds, right? So it's kind of meta, right? Because Myosin itself is a guild, but we're creating we have community guilds, so community managers, content guilds. So it started with written. We're starting to expand into podcasts, TikTok, etc. That's kind of our next focus. Then thinking about product guilds. So as Simon said, we very much see blue ocean opportunity to build growth, the marketing tools for a Web3 future, right? So starting to build those out. Biz Dev Guild, the list goes on. And actually, I'm most excited right now about Governance Guild, which is what we're assembling to date to help us understand and figure out, as Myosin continues to grow, how are we going to truly decentralize this thing Myosin, right? While also making sure that not every single decision within a DAO needs to be up for proposal, right? Because especially if you operate as a business, when you're trying to win clients, when you're trying to win proposals, if everything is up for proposal, that's a very inefficient way of operating, right? So those are the kind of things where we're trying to be very purposeful and think those things through, so we can get ahead of those challenges.
Yeah. Another thing, just noting on the crowdsource aspects of the DAO, I think, Blake touched on really well all the operational aspects of how we work, but I think the reason why we exist is really to create a unified brain trust across 40 people's different experiences. So while a proposal itself is relatively centralized in who's writing the proposal, presenting it out, rebuttals, etc. The genesis for the proposal of work is based on the collective knowledge of the group, which again, as Blake mentioned, is based on like a 1% acceptance rate and highly kind of screened to make sure that these people know what they're talking about.
Are you at the 150, or can people still join Myosin?
People can still join. We're at 41 now.
Okay, great. And how do they go about that?
We have an application form. I think it's just still on our website. I will just so I deal with project and community pretty much daily, right? So what I will say is if anyone who is listening wants to join, definitely fill out the main application form. Right now, as we've been evolving, we've been continually iterating and improving our own processes. It really originally started first 4 months or so, just one form that everyone filled out, and then you could tell us what specialties you fulfill. As we start to kind of hit and get closer to 50, I think we start to slow down acceptance as we start to focus in on delivering work, winning work. And now we're starting to accept members kind of based on the discrete needs. So, we were hiring up community managers about a month ago. We just finished a little product recruitment sprint. I think the next focus is going to be more content creators and business development folks. So definitely if you fill either those two roles, feel free to DM me on Twitter and we can talk about it. Or it'll help you get to the front of the line, because right now, if you just apply to the regular application form, there's about 1,500 applications that we still have to plow through.
Wow.
So just DM me, that'll be easier.
Wow. Well, that's exciting though. I mean, having that many applications, that many people wanting to be a part of that community.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, it's a great problem to have. I wish we could let everyone in, but that is the challenge of, trying to keep it intimate, right?
Absolutely.
And I think the vision for Myosin is much wider than just an exclusive group. I mean, ultimately what we're discriminating for here is experts who are really collaborative. So the entry point is, are you an expert? But I think what will keep you in the DAO is, something that we're building upon right now, which is reputation scores by way of net promoter scores that ask the question at the end of a project: would you work with this person again? and clients and team members can rate you on that 360, in addition to monthly bonuses through Coordinate based on how much more or less weight you pulled from an internal team perspective. So I think, especially marketers among any function in any company are collaborative people, because we're people. And, our intention is to eventually scale this to be a platform by which all of Web3 can discriminate for collaborators, no matter what skill set you have.
Yeah, and sorry, just one more thing actually to add to that, because Simon just brought up a good point, which is, I think the bigger picture vision for Myosin, right? So we keep talking about growth marketing DAO product studio. So I think that kind of speaks to the bigger vision. It's actually something internally I'm going to be sharing out with our community this Friday. I've talked about it before, but just kind of more concretely. Service is where we start, but as we've said before, products is definitely the next big opportunity we see, and where we're starting to move towards, and what we'll eventually fundraise for. But then I think the next step after that, once services and products are both at a kind of a good run rate, I guess, and they're both kind of growing and scaling at the right pace, I think education is kind of the next big step. Because again, when we talk about that 99% of the world that's not there yet, there's a lot of people who want to become awesome Web3 marketers, community managers, content writers, the list goes on. But they just need people to help onboard them, right? And I think who better to do that than the people who are actually working on projects and building products in that space? That could be us. And I think the exciting part is then what we can do is take that top 10% or whatever percent of the people who get accepted or who finish the course, and actually offer them a membership to join Myosin, right? And then that's going to become a very interesting thing that we'll have to figure out as a community, is what happens when we hit that 150 number, and then how do we continue to grow the community while still trying to retain that intimate sense of community and collaborating and working with people that you actually know, as opposed to tens of thousands of strangers on the internet. So that's
Absolutely.
something to add. Yeah.
Well, that's the question. That's the huge question with DAOs, with them being relatively new, right? Is how do you keep people engaged? How do you, how do you make it all function smoothly?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point, and an interesting vantage point to look at from Web3 people to talking to Web3 people. But if we extrapolate the problem here and reframe it from the perspective of talent marketplaces, you really got one of three options. If you're an expert marketer, you join an agency and you get deal flow, but you lose autonomy. You go to a talent marketplace where you have autonomy, but you don't have control over your rate, and you're kind of flattened down to a price. And then the third option, of course, is to start your own agency and inflict some version of this pain on your employees. And so at Myosin, what we're really building is a fourth option, right? If these things are tiny islands in outer space, we're the water that is kind of unifying all these islands. Because the reality is, it's not a fixed number of 150 active people. It'll be a rotating list of members. What we're really after is a highly collaborative community that can kind of stand up, like swell up and swell down based on the needs of the industry. And that's what we're delivering today.
So why did you choose Web3 project rather than straight up agency?
So I'll take this. I ran a small boutique consultancy for 6 years previous to joining Consensus, and previous to that, I spent time at RGA, Wonderman, VaynerMedia, a few boutiques in New York City where I stood up their growth practice. And every business has their warts, but ultimately, what I decided upon, or really what got me to move towards the DAO space, is a much more collaborative platform for people to be on even footing and for them to feel comfortable contributing their insights, intel, network, resources, etc. Because, I'll say for myself, I'm still within some of these circles on the Vayner side of things, etc. But there is kind of a double-edged sword there, right? Because once you leave the mothership, it's less support, etc. And it often feels like the chips are stacked against you if you're going independent. And that's kind of why we've built the structure and governance to be what it is at Myosin. Is we're attracting the best. for not only for you to enter our ecosystem, but to stay, because we're bigger together than we are apart.
I like that. And that kind of leads into one of my other questions, which is, what are some of the, and you answered some of it. What are some of the biggest differences between marketing in Web3 versus Web2?
Yeah. So, well, I don't know, Sam, you want to take that, or you want to?
No, yeah, go ahead, Blake. I'll
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah. So I think I actually kind of answered that a little bit earlier, right? So I think it's really and this is going to be interesting too, because I think I've been in the New York tech scene for a while, and I feel like there's a lot of analogies where it's very similar to kind of what we used to see when direct to consumer became a thing, right? Because I think what we oftentimes see is when a new technology or a new shift, I guess, happens, right? Everyone kind of heralds it as like, oh, this is the end, or this is going to totally revolutionize the world, right? And for me, I am very much a believer in Web3, but I like to think a pragmatist, and I think what I believe in is, right now, certainly, with the, as small and intimate as the Web3 space is, everything I talked about before holds true, which is those three pillars of community, content, partnerships, and then paid. Right, so those start to evolve, and those start to change exactly, how people think about marketing. The interesting thing I think is going to be over the next 5 to 10 years, as more and more people move into this Web3 space, how much, there are like two different worlds starting to collide, but then as they collide, they all both start to mesh, and eventually they're all going to look the same, right? When everything is Web3, is anything Web3 anymore? Right? So how do you define community when the entire world is back to building community? So I think the technology is enabling new ways of doing it. I think just like direct to consumer changed retail for the better, where it started to cut out middleman, it started to actually force retailers to get faster and smarter and more efficient and build more direct relationships with their customers. I think Web3 is doing the same thing, but for pretty much everything, right? Any community, any project, any brand. This is the next level for anyone providing a product service. You don't need other platforms anymore. Anyone can go off and just build their own, or they can kind of own that relationship more directly. So that's where I think, building, everyone talks about community. I think very few people actually really drill down into it beyond like these Twitter threads or listicles where they're talking about, oh, these are how you do a community. It's like, I think it's not rocket science. You just have to understand, what is your unique offering? Who are you talking to? How are you communicating with them? It's about thinking through the strategy. It's about executing on it, creating the content that you can feed into that community, right? And allowing the community to help create that content. And then partnerships, because especially in such a small space right now, that's one of the lifebloods of what keeps Web3 growing. But then again, as these companies scale, as they grow, that 1% of the world is only so big, right? And that's why you see some of the largest Web3, quote unquote, Web3 companies like Coinbase and, all these centralized exchanges. The bigger they get, the more they start to look like traditional companies. So, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my take on it, which is, yeah.
Yeah, going back to your question on like differences between Web2 versus Web3 marketing. I mean, Blake kind of nailed it early. In an e-com driven DTC industry, the problem that you're solving for is like pretty obvious. Like, I need a jacket, or I need a blender, or I need this like special dog collar because I don't want XYZ to happen to my dog. Web3, the large problem to solve is the sense of identity, sovereignty, agency over my data, and more specifically, finding like-minded people who I could get into bed with from a financial perspective and have shared upside. And so, in a way, we're tokenizing value value creation, and
Yep.
we don't necessarily have to go completely down the rabbit hole with DeFi and tokenization of everything. But this kind of goes back to, from a core principle perspective, human beings have clustered together to achieve more together than they could themselves. And that's the core basis of any community. It's just now in a post Web2 world, we have a sense of identity that is a digital twin of our physical existence. Like, my Instagram is arguably worth more to me than me as a person, depending on how many followers I have and when I was born. But as that digital life persists, there's a way to collaborate with other digital identities, vis-a-vis NFT avatars, etc., where we have a shared mission to have each other succeed. And so that's where it becomes abundantly obvious why community is first, why content is first, why partnerships is important. Because on the paid marketing side of things, I think everyone on this call who's listening understands just how extractive a Facebook is. But I think more importantly, where I see Web3 evolving is those paid media dollars will eventually go back into NFT communities, because the pay to rent a billboard tactic is going to die off eventually.
Yeah, interesting. I'm relatively new to Web3, so each of these conversations I get to have are so informative and just open about my mind to so many different industries within Web3. So CharmVerse being a Web3 operations platform, and for anyone who doesn't know, you can coordinate votes, bounties, token gates, proposals on our platform. How would you use CharmVerse for a mission at Myosin?
So we actually have been using CharmVerse. So we've at least been experimenting with it for quite a while. I think I have one of the early Explorer NFTs. So big fan of CharmVerse.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and so I mean I will be transparent and say we use Notion a lot, but we are ready and excited to move fully over to CharmVerse as soon as we feel like we're fully ready to make that transition. Because I think that's the exciting part is right now it is a little challenging for us in terms of, just from a DAO tooling perspective, I can say, as people, we help run a DAO, right? It is funny when everyone talks about, Web3 is the future. But if you look at our infrastructure right now, pretty much everything is Web2, right? Discord is technically a gaming platform that people have been using for years that Web3 just co-opted. We use Airtable on the back end to kind of operate everything, or at least manage our memberships, applications. We use Typeform to accept people. So right now, I think DAO tooling it's a weird thing, right? Where I think it was a meme last year or / this year as well, where everyone's any conference you go to, all anyone seems to be building is DAO tooling. I think there's a lot of stuff we don't need. I do think CharmVerse is something we do need. So I'm really excited to fully make that transition. So I think it's just a matter of time. I'll just give a quick bit of product feedback. I think the only thing holding us back at this point is we just need databases, because I know you guys have tables right now, but databases are pretty critical, I think, within Notion for us. But once we can get that, up and running, I think we're pretty much ready to go and make the full switch. Because being able to token gate, being able to, have the native bounty boards and all the other things that you guys already have integrated is going to be really helpful for us, just to have it all in one place instead of having to work across 10 different tools and platforms. So, yeah.
Well, I love to hear that. I love that you've been checking it out and messing around with it. And feedback is much welcomed. That just helps us keep building a better and better product that can become the operations platform of Web3, ideally. And I believe,
we're rooting for it.
Well, don't quote me, but I think databases are definitely on the roadmap. We've been discussing them. So I think you're going to get your wish on that one. So I am going to do a quick POAP shout out. So everyone, you can mint your Myosin CharmVerse POAP. Go into the mobile app, hit mint, and put in the word Firestone with a capital F. Firestone, all one word. And you get your unique POAP. So this time is going very fast, but what's your favorite thing about Myosin thus far, and what about something you would change going forward?
I'll take the first pass at this, Blake. I'm sure we'll bat the ball back and forth on this. We've been talking a lot about theoretical things. We've been talking about the change of the internet, data privacy, yada yada yada. all of which is exciting. If we bring it down to like a human interest story, there's a member that has recently joined us. She's a community manager out of Togo, which is West Africa. And she came to us with a ton of experience having managed communities with prominent celebrities in the U.S. And we've been fortunate enough to bring her on board for an upcoming project where we need community management help. And to me, what we've been able to do through the DAO and everything that goes into it is we've been able to connect with people from around the world like her, uh, grant an opportunity for us to collaborate together, build a community that didn't exist previously. Oh, and also do it, across multiple time zones and cultural differences, which I think begins to paint a picture of, potentially world peace can be a thing, and I think that's that,
I love that.
that for me, like, it's that simple. It sounds a little hokey, but like, if we remove all the technical complexities of all this stuff, it really comes down to human beings connecting and collaborating, and we're able to do that at scale. It's pretty amazing.
I love that.
Amazing. And then what was the second thing as well? Is what would we do differently?
Yeah, what would you do differently?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll let Simon dwell on that one, and then we can go back and forth, right? But actually, funny enough, I think my favorite thing is the same thing as Simon, which is really just the fact that, I don't know, I think it's interesting, like what COVID and how it kind of accelerated over the past couple of years, right? Like how COVID has really accelerated the move to digital and the shift towards being able to work anywhere and work remotely and, just be online, right? And there are definitely pros and cons to that. But kind of like Simon said, I think it's just the fact that we're able to, at this point now, for within a Web3 world at least, I appreciate that not every industry or every country is capable of this, or but from my perspective, the ability to kind of just pull in the best talent from anywhere in the world has been pretty incredible. And just, I think one of the things that we really like, as head of product community, I have to basically talk to every single person that ever, wants to join or actually is joining Myosin. And I've hopped on hundreds of video calls with people all over the world. And it's just fascinating to see different people, and especially with video calls, right? You see directly into their bedroom, right? So you can see where they are, what they're living like, and then just hear their perspectives. So it's been pretty eye-opening to, work, talk to so many different people and then bring them in and just talk to them and end up working with them and delivering real value. And it's pretty incredible to see that work, right? Because I think a lot of people have been talking about the potential of the internet to unlock a better future of work for quite a while. And I feel like, at least in our little part of the world, it is working. We're not perfect. There's definitely stuff we need to work on and improve as well, but it's working well enough.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like joining the Web3 industry, it's really great. Just the CharmVerse team alone, we're spread out across the world. Just the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
I think that kind of speaks to new kind of business models being unlocked. Sure, we're a digital cooperative, but what that truly unlocks is we've got 41 members from 12 countries speaking 6 different languages, boots on the ground of how people talk and communicate at a cultural level. That's unprecedented, at the size of the company, at the stage of the company that we're in. But
we've only been around for 6 months. That's
exactly.
crazy.
It's crazy, truly.
Yeah.
One area of opportunity, though, going to your question around like what would we do differently, I don't think that we would do anything differently. Honestly, no regrets here. But one area of opportunity for us is, because Blake and I are both based in New York. I'll speak for myself at least. Sometimes I get very I guess myopic about, let's say time zones that we're operating in globally, or like being accommodative of, the Eastern Hemisphere. Is meeting some of.
Oh, so,
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, no, I think you cut out for a second. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say one thing I'm super excited about is, I'm headed to Token 2049 in Singapore.
Oh, we lost you again.
Simon, you cut out again. You're headed to token. You're headed to Singapore.
Damn it! I want to know what he's saying.
He'll come back in. But yeah, I mean, so the question, what was it? It was, what would we do differently?
What would you do differently, or change moving forward, or adapt, or I guess?
Yeah. I mean, I gotta be honest. I'm not sure there is much I would do different. I think I've been in early stage building for a while now, and I've built and launched a bunch of different things and different iterations through different studios, independently, whatnot. I think in this case, what's been really incredible, I think, is because of the DAO model. I guess it's been and kind of where we are in terms of the development of the space. It's pretty incredible just to be basically a DAO is like it's composable, right? You can bring in people, you can scale up or down your talents or your services as much as the people who you have within it can offer, right? So I think that's been really exciting for me, and that's been the fun part, right? We've been evolving our offerings as we go, as we build the community. It gets more powerful. We bring in more people. We can expand our services. But yeah, I think the only, just looking forward, I guess, right? When we talk about products, I think I do wish maybe we had brought in someone earlier, maybe on the core team, who could actually own and run developing more products. That's the only thing, because I think that is a current blocker that we're facing, is just having high quality developers who are just kind of willing to help us get certain things off the ground when, we have developer talent, but it's the majority of people who are more marketers who know how to code, as opposed to like full stack developers who want to build marketing tools and products. That's probably the only thing I do a little differently. Yeah.
Okay. Simon's back. Simon, I was very curious what you're saying about Singapore.
Oh, yes. Long story short, before I start rambling again, the largest markets for crypto, both in DeFi and NFT, are in Asia. Top 3 countries are China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And so, it is by design why, I'm headed there at the end of September to shake hands with leaders in the crypto industry, both to attract talent for the DAO, but also begin to build bridges with the various protocols and products that are out there. And yeah, truly make this a global DAO.
Yeah, absolutely. And Blake, back to your comment about developers and stuff. I mean, there's so many, because Web3 is still pretty new, there's not a ton of people that are familiar with coding on the blockchain.
Yeah. And then the bigger challenge is there's just so much money sloshing around, right? It's just competing with the bigger players who already have. So you really have to sell people on the vision and the mission and the potential upside in terms of equity and, buying into the bigger picture. The good thing is, I will say, that's what we've been up to last week. We have 2 developers who we just brought on. So fingers crossed.
Well, that's great news. Yeah. Moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to keep this to half an hour, so I will let you guys get out of here. But let's tell people how they can follow your journey, because it sounds like you're doing really cool things. I'm excited to follow along.
Yeah, 100%. Well, they can always check out our website at Myosin.xyz. You can just type that in Google and it should pop up. You can also follow us on Twitter at Myosin_xyz. Or you can follow Simon and myself at Blake Minho Kim or at Ouch. And yeah, there we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. Please, everyone, check out Myosin.xyz or Myosin_xyz on Twitter. Please check out CharmVerse as well if you haven't already. We're a Web3 operations platform that brings together onboarding, bounty management, proposals, project trackers, and hopefully databases soon. And
love CharmVerse.
Excited about what we're building, doing upgrades to our bounty flow, and just always upgrading our features. So you guys keep sending us feedback as you get more and more into CharmVerse. Let us know what you're thinking. Everyone give follows, subscribe, turn on notifications, and don't forget to mint that POAP, Firestone, capital F, one word. And if you think that you can collab with CharmVerse or Myosin, please hit us up in the DMs. Blake and Simon, a pleasure to speak with you today.
Right back
Likewise.
at you.
Thanks
Thank you for
so
having
much. Yeah, good luck with everything. I look forward to following the journey.
Right back at you. Excited
right.
to migrate to CharmVerse in the next
Oh,
couple
me
months.
too. I'd love to hear that.
Coming
All
soon.
right. Cheers, guys. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks so
You
much.
too.
Bye.